Hey guys, this is Those Guys with your host Matt Marrero along with the other host.
Tristan Walter.
And what are we doing today, Tristan Walter?
War of the Gargantuas. Yeah.
Correct. War of the Gargantuas.
Yeah.
And,
Weird.
yeah, it's a weird title. And I was a little frustrated with certain parts of this movie. Well, no, yeah, you dislike this movie more than I did. And I believe the quote is, "Man, there's no Godzilla in this movie." I'm kidding, that's paraphrasing. But
No, go for it, man. If you're gonna go for the jugular, go for it.
well,
I'm prepared.
Look. I'm not saying that you judge every movie based on not having Godzilla in it. Otherwise, Star Wars would be shit to you. But when it comes to giant monster movies, you've literally said to me, "Man, if only Godzilla was in this one." On air. So I'm not making anything up.
On air? Oh, well, I mean the last one, but I
No,
wouldn't necessarily wish that see, it's weird. It's a catch-22. I wish he was, and I wish he wouldn't be at the same time.
it wasn't in this movie. I think it might have literally been Mothra. Where you were like, "It's great, but it's no Godzilla." And I was like, "Cool."
I mean, I'll take Mothra over this any fucking day of the week.
Oh, same. So I think that's just a given. Although, wait a minute. These two brothers, that fight, I feel like this movie was them saying, "We're sorry about Frankenstein conquers the world."
Yeah, I mean, all right. I'll give you that it was interesting, like having the Frankenstein monster or the Gargantua fight basically a copy of itself. It's like, oh, he must have gotten injured, and the cells, fell into the ocean and created a second one. It's like, okay, I'll bite. And their fight in the city was interesting because all the buildings were, cool, being destroyed and everything. The models that they had, that was interesting. But for an hour and a half watching this, that was only 15 minutes of the movie. Granted, a lot of monster movies do that, so it's not just this, but
That was longer. All the military fight, the fight with the brothers, and the opening scene, and even there might have been some other stuff, rampaging. Yeah, there was rampaging in the city. That added up to a decent chunk of the movie, in my opinion. Like you were saying, the first 30 minutes were just kind of waiting until we finally got to the military stuff. But even in that 30 minutes, I thought we got some stuff going on. Like, I feel like this movie had more action than we usually have in one of these films.
I guess, in a way.
The characters were not good.
I was
The humans.
them in the last movie.
Well, you know what it is? The humans weren't good, and and there weren't enough of them. So that may have made you feel like it droned on for longer. But when it comes to the actual monster fight, I don't have the numbers in front of me because I just finished watching this before the show, as I always do. But I feel as if this had a big chunk of monster fighting in it. More so than usual.
I guess. I felt like points they were, I don't know, they kind of interacted for a bit and then they ran away from each other, or they ran from the military, which would make sense because the last, giant mutated Frankenstein monster was smart enough to evade them for a while until, shit finally got to the boiling point. But these guys also felt like they kind of lost that, quoting human intelligence, where, I mean, granted they were being lured into a trap, but...
No. They definitely feel like Frankenstein's dumb kids.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I'll give you that one. Yeah.
Guys, well, here's another one. Even Godzilla gets out of the military's traps. Did you guys really fall for this? Alright.
I do think that in a way they were trying to be played up as children, though. Like, really childlike in some respects.
Right. No, I'm thinking of the line that you said to me before we started.
Oh, you mean
talking about the movie?
You mean my favorite line in the movie?
Yes.
Yes, which was, I believe, and I quote, Are you going to continue to wet nurse that monster? Which
Right.
I sat there and I was like, wow, that was a really powerful line that I didn't think would be said. It's interesting how older films, right? People think that there are all these, puritanical values, like, oh no, these films, they're so much older. So in a way, people think that they're being held back in certain ways. But I would never hear that line
Yeah.
in a newer monster movie. Not that I'm saying that it's that oh, PC culture. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just saying that like it's just there's certain things that they'll take away from older movies, and you'll be like, oh man, they took that away. That sucks. And then other things they don't do, like King Kong, and you're like, boy, I'm happy we moved away from that.
Right.
But yeah, this movie. So this was what the internet defines it as a pseudo sequel because it clearly is a sequel. However, at least in the dub, they don't really mention Frankenstein, and they've wiped out the idea that these are two Frankensteins by calling them Gargantuas. In the Japanese version, they actually call them Frankensteins. Well, it makes sense because that's the problem with this. That's the problem with this dub. This dub clearly makes you think, wait, so this Frankenstein thing happened, right? Because that's your thought behind it, ish. And then they kind of scrub it away completely by never mentioning him.
It's basically like what they tried to do with, if I remember correctly, like with Godzilla Raids Again, when they call them a different kind of monster.
Oh, wasn't it Gila? Was that the one you were referencing?
Yeah, well, yeah, it was Anguirus' first appearance, but they called them both. They didn't call Godzilla Godzilla.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
Like, really, guys? Really? We're gonna try this.
And what I think is the most frustrating here is that this movie was made, the dub was produced by the same guy who produced the original version and Monster Zero. So you would think that, even though I understand that, again, we always have to put things into context. Back then, there were no VHS tapes, there were no DVDs. The idea of going to the movie was just, here's your one-stop, I'm not saying that there weren't endless sequels because I don't want to sit there and be like, Hollywood's only making sequels. It's like, and remakes and adaptations. It's like, no, guys. Like, one of the first silent films was Frankenstein. Like, right. That's the funny thing, right? One of the first silent films that I can think of, I believe it was like 1910 or 1911, was a 10-minute short of Frankenstein. Right. So to anyone who says that all Hollywood does nowadays is make adaptations, well, yeah. Heck, I remember
example to defend that.
1923 was Phantom of the Opera. So, sorry guys, but what I'm trying to say is that it still does suck that even though I understand that back then it was like each movie was meant to kind of be just its own experience with some overlap, obviously with someone like Godzilla or something like Godzilla. It kind of sucks that they scrubbed away all of the Frankenstein-ness of this movie.
Yeah.
Also, the seemingly recasting, I would assume. Like, I mean, I'm gonna check right now just to make sure that it's the same character. But it would be kind of crazy if they just picked two random scientists, both American.
Right.
What I really thought was funny though is when I see the Doctor again, I'm just like, so apparently it's his second regeneration and he's not a woman. Whatever. I love the fact that they have Jodie, but we're not on that right now. Still, I just got so confused, right? When I see him again, I'm like, that's not Nick. I think that was the actor.
Nick Adams.
There we go, yes.
You don't sound like him either.
No, you are a worse actor, man.
I killed him and took his he was fired and I took over the project. What?
I have to say, though, I was really upset because it's fine that he can get replaced, whatever it happens, right? But the fact that he was just the worst actor, and I know it's somewhat not his fault because it's really hard to work with green screen. I mean, you've had actors even nowadays, right, where green screen is very abundant. And they even say, oh, it's really hard to work without a person there, even with a physical object there, like a suit or something like that. I mean, the things that even someone like, you think of something cute like Blue's Clues from when we were kids, and there was no dog there. I'm sorry, everybody. There was no dog. And, I mean, the dog existed in your heart, but like but on set, the guy who played Steve, if he wasn't balding, would be ripping his own hair out because he had to talk to, I think, like a tennis ball or something.
No, it's okay, everyone. Matt's just lying. He's just trying to pull a stunt on air.
You're right. I'm doing it for the ratings. But,
Exactly.
yes.
How dare you?
Of course.
How dare you insinuate that dog wasn't real?
They made it into a puppet eventually. But we don't talk about those seasons. I just want to say that it's rough because, again, I don't want to shit on...
The doctor was a puppet, too?
Yeah, the doctor was a puppet, too. I don't want to shit on this guy, but it's just when...
time.
But at the same time, I forgot her name when she fell down when they were running away from one of the Gargantuas bridges. When they were running away from them, and she fell. He just gave this look of like, I could leave her.
Right? Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah, you see what I mean, right? It was it was rough because he just squinted, and it was just like I was waiting for him to whisper, like, I could leave you to die right now, and no one will ever know. Like, I was like, is he going to do that? And then he does it. And I was like, oh, you want to save her. Well, that was not apparent. Your motivations are unclear, sir.
Could you imagine he was just an extension of the Green Gargantuan?
That would have made things so, like, weirder, but not out of line for this film.
That would have been, I mean, I don't know, that would have been a really out of nowhere but weird and kind of interesting twist.
I don't know how I would have felt. I really don't.
Yeah, I know, right?
But what's interesting is they actually took some plots from the first film, and they seemingly brought them into this one. And that was what would have been in the first film, like the volcano stuff I mentioned last episode. Because obviously, I think I mentioned last episode that the first movie was a bunch of different scripts, essentially rewritten and combined into Frankenstein Conquers the World. Frankenstein wasn't even the original monster. Apparently, it was going to be Godzilla, which is Godzilla at one point, and then originally King Kong versus Prometheus. So you look at King Kong, and it's kind of funny how these two Frankensteins or Gargantuas, they somehow looked more like King Kong than even... than of course the original Frankenstein, which is kind of funny because it felt like once they got away from the original Frankenstein design and what they wanted to do with it and make it more caveman-like or whatever, they then were able to go, all right, we have the suits around because this was 1966, 4 years after King Kong. So they've made King Kong suits before, they know what they're doing, and they sit back and they think, well, let's make them look more like a Kong. Because honestly, dude, if you told me they were in the Kong family in the same way you do with Donkey Kong, I wouldn't have been shocked. No, I'm being serious. I wouldn't have been shocked.
I mean, I even said to you, too, while I was watching it, I'm like, so if I wanted to watch, giant furry creature destroy a city, I could have gone and watched King Kong.
Basically, but then you got it doubled. So they're like Team Rocket.
Why? Why did you make that analogy? Why?
Prepare for trouble and make it double. And guess what? If that guy was an extension of them, he'd be their Meowth. He'd be like, he'd squint and he'd say that's right.
I'm hanging up now.
All right, I broke Tristan on the air, everybody.
Yes, you did.
You're the one who said the extension of the monsters thing, so really, this is your own doom. This is your own demise.
I don't know how to come back from that, Matt. I don't know how to come back.
Back to the past, Samurai Tristan.
Oh, stop. Okay,
so they were two different doctors. So yeah, they somehow found a... See, this is the one thing that while I love cameos, I love people coming in and doing cameos and being different characters. The problem is that in certain movies, especially in one like this, you really need to, you can't take a certain job type, bring it back, replace the actor and say that it's a completely different person, because Also, I forgot to mention this in the beginning of the episode. It is noted in the episode title, but we're only doing the dub. It's the only one we were able to watch and get. So we're only doing the dub at this point. So I'm just assuming and seeing what I've read online about the sub, but assuming that they did a similar. I mean, they mentioned that they're Frankensteins, but obviously it's a different character, right? It's not going to be like online. It would list if it's the same character from the original movie. So it's just weird to introduce a new scientist, keep it as Frankensteins, maybe mention that they appeared before, but not include the original cast. And I know Japan is a big place, but it's just a weird thing to me.
Right.
You know? And it's happened in some other Godzilla movies, I can't remember right now, but ones that we've done on the show, where they will obviously replace the actor or, funnily enough, move them around to do another cameo. And then take that, whatever role that you could have just reprised from the last film and then made a new character, but same job type. So you're sitting there and you're like, well, apparently, there's just a bunch of, which I'm not saying there aren't a bunch of different scientists in Japan or a bunch of different news, reporters or journalists. But after a while, you just kind of sit back and go, all right, first off, apparently everyone does look the same because it's a cameo of one actor doing about 100 different people.
Right.
And these 100 guys look so much alike. And, or you end up having a situation like this where I understand that I'm sure Nick Adams himself was busy, but what are you laughing at? He did Monster Zero.
I know. That's why.
Oh, okay.
That's why I'm laughing. It's like, yes, he probably did have better things to do.
Oh, well, not better. He was still in Japan. He was just doing other Toho movies.
Right.
And I think maybe
that still kind of stands.
Fair enough. I mean, maybe they wanted, maybe he thought it would be a launching pad for his career. I don't know what else he did after this, to be fair. But,
All I mean is that if they could have at least just they had an hour 30. They could have had a blurb where they're like, oh, what happened to the previous doctor? It's like, oh, he went back to the States. He's no longer part of the project, or he's not heading the project. It's like, I took over, in his stead or whatever, something. But no.
And to be fair, I don't think they did that in the Japanese version either, but we don't know right now. But definitely the American version wanted to just make it its own thing, which is extremely awkward. I'll say that much.
It's always awkward when you try and do that when it's not really meant to be.
Good point.
Especially if you do it in this weird kind of way where it's like, no, it's still kind of like this one, but it's not. It's like, okay, you either need to go full on one way or the other, because this weird, awkward ground that we're in right now is not helping anything.
Most definitely. Another thing, too, is that I feel like while the octopus appeared in the movie, I feel like it could have played a bigger role. I know that it's hard to work with the octopus, but it appeared at the end of Frankenstein Conquers the World, which, by the way, if you're watching the Japanese version, that actually makes sense in the sense of, like, this movie makes more sense because he fights the octopus and assumingly he gets injured, and that's where his cells, they fall into the ocean.
Right.
And then they create these monsters. Watching the American version, he never fought the octopus. So you just have to sit there and go, if you're looking at this and realizing it's a sequel, you have to sit there and go, so I guess it happened at one point.
Yeah.
But it is interesting. I do think, though, that, look, I know that this movie isn't the best, right? But the reason why I've been praising it a little bit, I think, is because if you watch it back to back, and I know you're going to say it's not, it's not that, it's not an achievement to be better than Frankenstein Conquers the World, but I feel like putting them back to back, it just feels like one of those sequels that somehow ends up doing better than the original, at least in my eyes. And I think because it was better, even if you think it's marginal, it just felt so much better in comparison to an awkward growing pains Frankenstein story where we barely saw him fight. And then once we did, it wasn't that long, and then we get gypped out of the really weird octopus fight.
Right.
So, like, here, I do feel like they made up for it by having the brothers. To me, it felt like they fought longer than they should have. Like, compared to normal giant monster movies.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you're right, though. When you said, they were just sometimes they were just walking around and then leaving. But even then, using those effects, that's something that, I don't know, I feel like they usually do it sometimes in a city, but I don't know, like, I feel like we've gotten into this, I guess I would say, I can't think of this pattern with giant monster movies, usually with Godzilla, where they know, okay, and then this is when he comes in and then he leaves. Maybe he does a little bit of destruction, but then he leaves, and then we'll wait 40 minutes until he shows up again to fight the monster, and then, oh god, we're recycling footage too, because fuck. But here we actually have unique footage for these two monsters that their suits look pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, aside from being a less hairy King Kong Franken monster, that aside, like, not looking at it that way and just saying monster suit, the suits were good. And I did like the design for the more aquatic one, I guess you could say, because he kind of had that scaly thing going on and less hairy.
You know what they looked like? They looked like a mixture between, like, a creature of the Black Lagoon.
Oh, jeez.
And something out of Twilight Zone.
Nightmare at 10,000 feet?
Yes.
Yeah,
in general, but yes.
Thing?
Yeah. It was, so I really like the suits. Also, really confuses how they were just like, so he's gonna eat someone. And they were just okay with that. They were like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Look,
like,
Matt, it's for science.
I guess.
I mean, considering how much they flip-flopped about him in the first one, I'm not really surprised that here their morals are a little, gray.
That's what was really funny, too, is that they definitely were like, all right, guys, so let's just understand that he's eating people. So, like, what are we going to do here?
Yeah, it felt like the military actually stepped in this time and was like, so, no, we're destroying it. Oh, but it might regenerate and just create more of them. Why did you not tell us that before? Oh, well, we just figured it out now. All right, fair enough, but...
Yeah, that's what's interesting, too. Like, it feels like there was no research. Like, I'm just really confused as to... Like, it clearly is a sequel, based on the fact that we know that in Japanese they are Frankensteins.
Yeah.
And even then they said they kept the regenerative part in the script, in the dub. But I'm still just so confused as to... I don't know. Like, I feel like without Frankenstein, this is all just really weird, which is something I never thought I'd say. I never really thought in my life that I'd say that out loud and it'd be in context.
Oh, we do that a lot on this show, don't we?
We really do. Like, we have to collect those clips. But yeah, no, I just... Also, did you notice how there was, like, this really weird... They were trying to go for, like, romantic tension with him and his secretary, in my opinion. And then at other points, he was like, guess I would have lost a good secretary. And it's just like, all right, are you going to give her a fine slap on the ass? Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, right? Oh, God.
Like, I look at my secretaries and I give them a firm smack on the behind. And it's just like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm the one who saw that in that way. Maybe it's on me. But I just looked at him and I was like, wait, so is this romantic tension or does she work for you? What are we doing here?
I mean, he just felt so deadpan to me most of the time that I didn't really feel anything from him.
He's literally, this ties into Monster Zero. The aliens are like, we made a robot.
Oh, shit. Oh, no. When they come back, they have the Frankenstein monster. They have both gargantuans. Now you will have to face a tag team, Godzilla.
Godzilla snaps his fingers and Rodan and Mothra roll up like, "What's up, bro?
Oh,
What you need?"
why do they love that description so much? Oh, I want that now. Oh God, I want that.
But you know what? Okay.
Damn it, Matt.
Let me give this actor the benefit of the doubt because I think we're putting him down. And granted,
Yeah.
no. Here's the thing: most of it was accurate, but there's one big major thing that I would argue that someone like Nick Adams somehow was able to thrive in. Unsure, and we're not saying he's the best. He was just better than this guy, and also I think his accent just kind of felt natural to you and I being from New York. But the thing is, here's the thing, right? We have to remember that every time this guy's in a scene and he does his lines, people are next to him, all around him, are speaking in Japanese.
Yeah, that's true. That's also another layer of making it difficult. You know, you have a language barrier, and then you also have, you know, you're talking to a tennis ball.
Yeah, or just a blue
nothing
screen.
at all.
Yeah, or nothing at all. So it's really funny because, you know, I think we forget that because we're not only watching a dub, but everyone, in some cases, right, the dubs are getting better and some they're getting worse. But I would argue that in this movie, there wasn't anything spectacularly bad about the voiceover work. So you think, oh yeah, and then he's dubbed too. And then you have to remind yourself, no. He's actually speaking in English. There's no dubbing there. So then you have to remember, oh God, the rest of them are speaking Japanese. So I'm sure they have a translator on set, obviously, or he might know Japanese himself, but still, regardless if it's either one, it's going to be very hard someone speaking to you in a completely different language and then you having to respond with emotion in a separate language.
Right.
Like, in that way, these two productions, as well as Monster Zero, were very unique. And I think are unique not just for their time, but even today. Because today it's like, I'm not saying you can't have a movie that has a bunch of different cultures in it or a bunch of different languages. I remember Pacific Rim had a bunch of different characters from around the world. But usually, other than maybe some key moments, everyone just defaults to English. And you don't dub people over. You don't have anything like that. It's just everyone defaults to English minus key moments. Or defaults into the language, the area that it's being released in. So obviously, the Fullmetal Alchemist film, the Attack on Titan film, the live action films are obviously in Japanese because that's where they were released. But you don't really have people speaking in like English Japanese or like English Spanish and combining the two. And then for, let's say US release, dubbing it over. Like, that's just so interesting. So in that regard, I think we should maybe not commend them to say that it was good, but at least commend them on the effort. Because that's very intriguing when you think about it that way.
Right.
So I don't think I asked you this last time, and I don't think I did. Actually, I may have, and you may have said NA. But not applicable. So the question is, what is your favorite scene in this movie? NA.
I mean, it's probably when the monsters are actually fighting each other and they were throwing each other through buildings. That was interesting.
Damn it, that's my favorite scene too. And the reason why is because recently on Halloween in July, which we're still doing for this episode of Friday Night Movies, recently for Halloween in July, we did on a Saturday, actually, we did Akira. And I see the two brothers staring down, and all I can hear is, Tetsuo! Kaneda! And I laughed harder than I should have, because I shouldn't have laughed at all.
Yeah. It just all comes full circle. All our shows are actually secretly connected.
All of them.
Some way or another. Each and every one. If you go back and actually listen to our previous cast, you'll find that in every episode... No.
There's all secret hidden messages.
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting, especially looking at the body count in this movie. Cause usually, I wonder if they felt like they had more, leeway because they weren't doing a typical Godzilla film or something like that. Where in a Godzilla film, I'm not going to say that people can't die, but usually you see more collateral damage than anything. In a lot of tokusatsu movies or TV shows, usually it's collateral, it's never and I say usually because it can happen. I don't want to like say generally or always, but you will not have someone getting stomped on or dropped or eaten, right? Like you think of iconic moments, like with King Kong, and it's like the person gets taken to then be placed down or, you know, to be kept safe in some form or another. It's never like, oh yeah, no, I ate her.
Right.
It's like picked her up, put her right back down. They told me to put her down. What did you expect? So I 50 feet in the air. What did you think was going to happen? So it was so strange, I think, to see the high body count. And even though it wasn't that high, it was still higher for a movie like this to be showed on screen. Like the last time I can remember someone dying on screen was two humans. I think it was Mothra versus Godzilla when that guy got shot.
Right.
Horribly, by the way, if anyone doesn't remember. Good God, that guy died a bloody, bloody death. But the point is that was by another human.
Right.
So, yeah, this movie was very different. It's funny. I would actually recommend this movie to people. I wouldn't recommend Frankenstein Conquers the World unless you actually have time to kill or you want to see movies like this. Like you're actively seeking to see some of the lower tier tokusatsu movies. But I would suggest someone watches this movie. If they said, hey, I want to see a giant monster movie that isn't Godzilla, I would, well, because obviously, like, you would recommend Godzilla if someone asked you.
I mean, I would also recommend Mothra or Rodan.
Oh, I wouldn't recommend this first, but it'd be on my list. Being third isn't bad. There's only, well, granted, compared to the older movies, there's only one Mothra movie, and there's one Rodan movie. Being third ain't bad.
I mean, all right, give me a few minutes, and I'll look up some other titles for you.
You don't know that many older ones. You'll get me like 90s ones, which are, they're not old. We're not old, Tristan.
Well, I mean, I know other, like, quote-unquote giant monster movies, like them and, oh, God, I can't,
Frankenstein Conquers the World. Thank you, Tristan.
Gorgon, which is actually more of a British kind of adaptation on Godzilla, but it's a Gorgosaurus, but yeah, it's I know that one's kind of Godzilla too. But
yeah,
there are, like I said, give me a few seconds and I could look up them as giant ants. There are plenty of other movies. Oh, the creature from 22,000 Leagues Under the Sea, something like that. Ray Harryhausen. I can come up with more, Matt. I just need time.
Here's what's funny. You come up with all those, and then you come up with, like, 9. And you're like, here's 9. And I'm like, fine, that it's in the top 10. And you're like, fuck her! I got him. So, what matters is...
I will bump you down to top 20.
God damn, that's great. You're like, no, you bump it down to like top 15. The sad thing, the only sad thing that I'll say is we're not going to be able to talk about this movie for long because other than saying, man, those fights were cool. And, oh yeah, I really like the brother dynamic. And man, it stinks that they didn't, go harder on the Frankenstein plot more in the dub. I don't really know what else to say other than, man, those characters existed.
Yeah. Oh, at the end when the green one picks up the assistant and then the brown one comes in to stop him and he just drops her back into the subway station. Like, she landed on the stairs. That was all solid concrete. She dead.
Yeah, that was not done well.
Like, no joke. She dead. Because the doctor didn't even catch her. You just see him run up to her. It's like, are you okay? It's like, no, jackass. I just hit the concrete from like 10, like 20, 30 feet in the air. How do you think I feel? The second
she lives, he's like, all right, guys, what if we make a enlargement ray? And they're like, John, not for your penis again. He's like, no, not that. That's a separate one. If we make an enlargement ray and we make her bigger because she lived, so clearly she has super strength of some kind.
Oh no. by one of the monsters, and some of its cells got into her bloodstream. Oh, jeez.
That's how science works, right? I think? I don't know.
Yeah, that's how... Yeah.
You know what, man? I want to make science jokes, but we accepted Frankenstein's heart last episode, so I don't know if we're allowed to anymore. At least for this series.
Exactly.
For these two. Later on, we can talk about science again, but right now we're screwed.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. By the way, I thought it was really funny how they kept the Japanese, like, I guess, a hiking group, camping group. I love how they kept their song in Japanese, and I kind of sat there and thought, well, that song isn't based on as far as I know, something popular that you would need to keep it in because you want to pay royalties to someone, or, you know, it's someone's debut song or something like that. Because usually that's what happens. I've said on the show before. They'll keep a song in Japanese when they bring it over. And this is also true for anime as well, because the company in Japan that's licensing it out to the American company, they say, no, we want to promote, or at least the music label wants to promote that artist. So they'll have musical anime. That's why a lot of them don't get dubbed, because a lot of, when I say musical, I mean like idol stuff, because if it gets dubbed, the songs are usually kept in Japanese, which is really rough. Very, very, very rough. So, but this was a random folk song. So I was like, why are they keeping this random song in Japanese? And I wonder if maybe it was attached to the track, where, like, it was attached to, like, I say attached as in they laid it onto the same track, and that's how it was given to the American company when they were dubbing it. Because I wonder why a lot of other things were removed, right? A lot of other sounds were either dubbed over or just removed completely. But the song, which was a long song, was not removed. Yet they were still able to put on the English dub actor's voice. So you sit there and you think, wait, well, the voice was obviously a separate track, clearly, but the song wasn't?
Right.
Like, it was so interesting because they're singing it, and you could say, well, it was sheer laziness, right? But regardless, they look like doofuses, right? As, you know, like older people, like jumping around, skipping, like, we're singing a happy song, because kids, that's what you should sing, right? They look like, you know, they look like goofballs. Right? So why would you not give them an American cute little song to sing? It was so weird that they just kept it, to me. Because then when they're running away, they're like, oh no, we speak English now. Run away.
Right.
And I was like, well, you guys picked up the language real quick. All it took was a giant monster. Literally, that's all they needed, a giant monster. And they're just like, we know how to speak English now. It was like, all right, cool. I don't know if that'll help you against the monster, but I mean, do whatever you got to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting, to say the least. I'm surprised that they kept it. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me was that they could have done this sequel. I like how they set this up conceptually, but I feel like they should have, like I said before, it should have been like all or nothing. They should have taken out like all the elements of the original one and just made it its own thing completely, because then you kind of have, I don't know, I feel like a more, like, original, not, quote-unquote, original monster, and you can kind of do whatever you want with it, and I feel like that would have made a little more sense than trying to still halfway tie it to Frankenstein's monster, or go all the way and say, you know, definitively say, like, no, this is the spawn or brother or whatever monstrous connection, you know, you want to have between them, you know, go with that and state it specifically.
Yes.
Not be in the middle of the road. Because, I mean, personally, to me, I feel like I might have enjoyed this a little better if it was just its own thing.
So then, arguably, if you saw the dub and you didn't know about the Frankenstein connections, would you have enjoyed it more?
Possibly.
Because that's what you're saying. Because technically,
yeah.
technically, the Frankenstein connections are only in the Japanese version.
Right.
Yeah. I'll give you that. I'll definitely give you that. If it was its own thing, it could have been better. Although I do want to say that, in a way, they're just kind of, and it's funny I use the word aping because we think of King Kong when we see the designs and the original script and everything. But in a way, they're just aping Son of Kong and, Bride of Frankenstein, like all these other movies back in the day. Because even those movies were, even though this movie came out in 1966, the dub came out in 1970, but the original came out in 66. Even though this came out in 66, by that point, they were still 30 years old, which is kind of crazy to think about. Movies like Son of Kong, King Kong, Bride of Frankenstein, I think maybe 20 or so. So you kind of think of how Universal, in a way, expanded its universe. And I'm not saying it was good, right? How they expanded their universe by creating, taking the original properties that they made or the original movies and kind of turning them into this really weird monster verse, if you will. And you kind of look at that and I think maybe that's what they were trying to go for with this. I don't know if they thought it was going to be successful or not, but they definitely were trying to go for like a Son of Frankenstein vibe. My only issue is I don't think, and again, I haven't seen the Japanese version, so I'm just going with online summaries. I don't think they mentioned that Frankenstein died. So it's super fucking awkward that he doesn't show up to say hi to his kids.
Oh my god. Are you saying Frankenstein's monster is a bad dad?
I mean, you know what? It's sad, but I think he learned it from his dad, Frankenstein. Guy was a jerk.
I sew you back together from different body parts and, bring you to life and, you don't, you say I'm a bad father. I didn't want to exist, Dad.
Well, maybe you should still introduce me to my grandkids.
Oh my god. Are they immortal like you too? Oh, I don't know. See? Oh no. Oh, why is this becoming a thing?
All that matters is that
they all died in the volcano. Just leave it at that.
That was sad.
I'm sure nothing living could have survived that. Really? You want to argue that after the last time?
Well, it's a volcano. But although it's kind of funny, I think a lot of movies have it regardless of where you're from, but I feel like Japan has this huge fascination with volcanoes.
I mean,
I know, live on an island. I know.
They are in the Ring of Fire in the Pacific. So,
No.
Yeah.
When I say fascination, I refer to the idea that, oh no, this thing is unkillable. No, that fucking volcano, bro.
I mean, that's basically one of the most powerful natural forces on the face of the planet. So.
But here's the funny thing. I'm not saying, oh, are they going to dump Godzilla in, or are they going to dump in Mothra, or Rodan? When they say,
oh wait, they did that.
They did that. But what I'm trying to say is but Rodans weren't unkillable.
Right.
They literally take things, Japanese media, that are unkillable, and they're like, just dump it in the volcano, man. It's all good.
You just said it was unkillable. Nah, it's fine. That's a volcano. What does that have to do with it being unkillable? Shut up and watch the volcano.
I assume what they mean by that is it's constantly melting it, so
Yeah.
it can't regenerate.
Right.
Like, I'm honestly shocked that Akira Toriyama didn't write that Cell would be taken out by a volcano. It's just, like, the androids weren't taken out by a volcano, so I really couldn't get into the story.
I mean, Piccolo didn't get the chance. Cell came up before, he could throw 17 into a volcano to stop him from reaching his ultimate form.
Yes. And 17 would have liked it if you hear about how he's a nature freak now. But, look, all I'm saying is this, right? Look, all I'm trying to say is I can't think of that many. So, I'm not saying it's just a Japan exclusive thing. But I think of this movie, I think of Rodan, even though Rodan wasn't supposed to be unkillable, but still Rodan. And I also think of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, funnily enough.
Although, see, that kind of harkens to the idea Cars is more of the ultimate life form. And it's not the volcano that destroys him because...
No, we don't want to spoil. It's just the idea that... you know... I mean, again, you know, I'm just saying I don't want to spoil for anybody. But...
We've done the podcast for that, too, already. But...
We did on Anna Saturday, so go in and listen, everybody. But, the point...
You can hear it there.
You can hear it there. Yeah, exactly. That's what promotion is. So what is capitalism? But
okay.
No, but the point is it's a Jeopardy question now. But in all seriousness, right? I feel as if like in a lot of stories, in a lot of media, but you're right, it makes sense because they're close to it. But still, it's the idea that a volcano equals destruction for whatever ultimate life form or being or perfect creature. Again, in a way, completely shocked that Toriyama didn't dip Cell into a volcano. But that's how the Garlic Jr. movie would have ended. Just he would have flown into a volcano.
Oh, jeez.
Anyway, is there anything else you want to say about this? Oh, actually, no. I should ask you, Tristan, before I say, is there anything else you want to say about this film? What is the scene that you really didn't like? What is your least favorite scene in this movie?
I don't think we have time for that, Matt.
You can pick one. You're going to fucking say it again. Don't fucking quote yourself again.
Oh, man. See, that's a hard question. I got to pick one?
All right, then I'll pick one.
Oh.
The scene where he was trying to save her, not because of the effects used, because even though you can see the blue outline, that happened a lot in this movie. It happened in the last one too. I mean, heck, it even happened very, very, I would say aggressive blue lines in King Kong versus Godzilla. So, I'm not... What?
No, just remember it literally assaulting my eyes. But yeah.
Yes, King Kong versus Godzilla. It was aggressive.
Oh.
That hurt. That hurt so much. But
Yeah.
my point is that that scene, I think, just because of his acting mixed in with them trying to, which I usually am okay with them trying to cut around and make things work. I do like that they got a stunt person though, and they really tried to make it seem like she was hanging there. That was nice, but still, there was something about that scene that I think that might be the worst scene in the movie for me, because to me, the rest of it was cool action or scenes that were boring but not bad. So that's my worst scene. What about yours? Did they bore you too much to care that negatively? And I'm being serious.
I mean, in a way, yeah.
And that's okay. All right? No. That's... Look, man.
Like, I'm trying to think of just, like, the worst thing for me, if I had to really point it, was what I said earlier when she's dropped and he's just kind of there, like, you all right? I'm like, no! It was like, yeah, the rest of it just, I don't know. It just didn't grab me enough to hate it or like it.
And that's okay. Again, well, I don't know about like it, but like I'll give you that though about the hate. I'll definitely give you that. But yeah, I mean, it's okay, right? Because it's done. It's over, Tristan. It's all over. Yeah, and next week we're gonna do something completely different. Still doing a Toku movie, but not actually. Yes.
Are we really?
Yes,
or
we're not.
Are you going to secretly surprise me with the third installment?
You have no idea how happy that would make me.
I would hate you for the rest of my life.
I would hate me too.
I would never do Halloween in July with you again.
All right, so you trust me for 11 other months of the year. All right, cool.
Apparently, that just shows you who's the smart one on this show.
All right. I don't think we got to stop the self-loathing right here. We got to cut this short. One of our shorter podcasts, but again, there's not really much about this movie other than cool fights. Now, again, even with that, I would still suggest someone watches this movie. However, I don't know if Because I know Frankenstein Conquers the World is actually, as far as I can tell, online it's going for a lot of money. I don't know if it's still in print. If this movie isn't in print, I would say hold off on buying it. Like, I don't think this is a $50 movie, but I do think this is a $20 or lower film. I think you can spend $20 on this. I'd feel awkward about spending that on Frankenstein Conquers the World, but I think someone can spend $20 on this movie and feel somewhat satisfied. But I think that if you're spending $25 or more, I don't know, man. It's really rough for me to say that about this film. Like, I enjoyed it, but I don't know. Like, unless you're a super huge collector, like, that's the thing. If you're a collector, then go for it, man, right? But if you want to watch this on the simple basis that, oh, hey, I really want to enjoy it and I want to feel like I got my money's worth, I don't know. But, yeah. So I want to thank you all for listening in, as always. And, Tristan, I assume there's nothing else you want to say about this movie at all.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
All right, then he's fine. Now, we're in Halloween in July right now, and I want to mention that not only do we have our podcast that I'm assuming you're currently listening to, because here you are listening to it, that I assume you've either gotten through our main our main account, which is blogtalkradio.com/those guys on the radio. That's where we do all of our podcasts. But I mean, you can also find us through iTunes as well by searching up Those Guys. You can find our archived versions over at our YouTube channel. Searching up Those Guys on the Radio will help you find it. And we post all of that along with our stuff on Those Guys Play and TG Productions over at our main website, which is tgproduction.net. And also on that website, we have some amazing merchandise, t-shirts from our Let's Plays, and other fun stuff we said on the podcast, and other funny designs that you can get over at tgproduction.net/merchandise, and on our eBay channel, which is, by the way, /USR/Those Guys Radio. Our eBay channel actually has a bunch of stuff, not just t-shirts. It also has exclusive posters that our own Anthony Sinandris has hand-drawn, really cool stuff that you can get on there as well. And also, it has stuff from my collection on there as well. DVDs, Blu-rays, VHS tapes, and a lot more. And a bunch of different video games as well. And a bunch of different stuff that you can find over at our eBay. Again, from personal collection as well. Also, we have I mentioned our YouTube channel a bunch of different times. Those Guys Play. We're also doing Halloween in July there as well. So right now, Tristan and I are playing Fatal Frame 2. And we're also doing some other games as well that will be coming up soon. Right now, I've played a bunch of different games myself, and more are on the way. I had to stop there for a second. No. Oh, God. The screen went black because I assumed it was in standby, but I didn't know if that meant it stopped recording.
Oh.
So I got fucking scared.
Okay.
Yeah, so anyway, so give me 1 second. I'll start again, and then I'll end it for real. Where was I just at? Also, just came out with a new series that doesn't really have much to do with Halloween in July called Hard Mode, and we'll be continuing that throughout as long as we can, really. And it deals with different video game controversies, not just mostly in the in the video game, I guess, making world and how games are released. We have a bunch of different topics set up for coming up in the future, but the first one is PewDiePie sexist? Which is a very controversial topic. That's why I wanted to delve into it and kind of look at both sides and see what in the heck is going on here with one of the most famous YouTubers out there. I believe he currently is the most famous YouTuber, actually, famous Let's Player, or even just YouTuber in general, because anyone higher than him, anyone more famous than him, is an actual company, like CBS or NBC or something like that, or WWE. So I think he is the most famous person on YouTube. So super interesting. Wanted to delve into that topic, see what the heck was going on there, due to some latest controversy that came out about him with this recent video that he did. And you can check that out again on our YouTube channel. Search up Those Guys Play and you can find us there. And if you just want to focus on Let's Play content, we have over 300 videos there, a bunch of different games. We have a bunch of different horror games, but also, when we're not doing Halloween in July, currently Tristan and I are playing Dragon Ball Z. Those guys play Dragon Ball Z. We're doing Infinite World right now, and we just finished Budokai. Even though this technically is a horror game, we actually recently finished Luigi's Mansion as well. And I have to get him back in to do Disney's Dinosaur, but he hates it so much, don't you, Tristan?
I mean, yes, it's still a part of my childhood, but then again, that doesn't replace my hatred for it. I love the movie, but not so much the game.
Right, and the movie we actually did on Friday Night Movies as well. So that's another plug for us. But anyway, guys, thank you all so much.
Chalk up that plug counter.
Yeah, got to keep on plugging. So thank you guys so much. Love you all. Take care. And if you want to help support us, please go to our Patreon, TG Productions. There's a cool little different reward tiers, reward stuff that you can get depending on how much you help us out. Just help us keep the lights on if you like what you see. And if you don't like what you see, then give us money out of pure hatred. Just out of spite. Just go, I hate you. Here's money. And we'll go, we accept.
It'll make our cells regenerate.
Exactly. Money makes our cells regenerate. Boy, is that not capitalism 101. All right, so thank you all so much. Love you guys. Take care. Hope you had fun. And we'll see you next time on another episode of Friday Night Movies. But we still have Anna Saturday coming up tomorrow, so don't think that we're not going to do that either. So, because we will. And we'll do something completely different, because this movie has not been animated, Tristan. It's okay. You can breathe, Tristan. It's okay. All right.
Don't scare me like that.
All right, guys. So love you guys. Take care, and hope you had fun. So say good night, Tristan.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.